Yes, guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope all is going good. Now today, Camilla Tominey is going to be absolutely grilling Labour MP Darren Jones in relation to an absurd statement he said on Question Time, whereby the majority of illegal immigrants, he tried to make us believe that the majority of illegal immigrants were women and children. So she's going to be grilling him on that. And in relation to, Rachel Reeves's disastrous budget and no economic growth. So she's going to be bringing up all these questions to him. He's going to be finding ways to dance around. And then she's going to talk about tax rises. Are you going to come back for more taxes from, hardworking Brits? To which he can't really answer, because the answer will absolutely be yes, they're coming back for more taxes.
Just moving on to domestic matters, Mr. Jones. Keir Starmer once described calls for a national inquiry into grooming gangs as jumping on a far-right bandwagon. What's changed?
Well, the inquiry that Baroness Casey has done for us, which will be reported to Parliament this week, we've always been very focused on the fact that at the heart of all of this are victims of the most atrocious crimes who deserve justice, and those criminals need to be prosecuted. When we came into government, as I think we've spoken about before on your show, Camilla, we received a number of recommendations from the last report by Alexis Jay. We were getting on and implementing those measures whilst asking Baroness Casey to review the situation for us at the same time as some local inquiries being set up. Baroness Casey's now concluded that report, which I say will be published next week. The Prime Minister has seen it and has decided that we need a national inquiry to do further work, which will be confirmed to Parliament tomorrow.
Why does he need Louise Casey to tell him we needed a national inquiry? Literally anybody watching or listening to GB News over the course of recent years could have told the Prime Minister exactly what is concluded now last year.
Sure, no, it's a good challenge, but of course you've got to make sure you're doing these things properly. There are lots of sensitive information, sensitive cases across the country. Remembering that Keir Starmer was the Director of Public Prosecutions when he worked with Baroness Casey to bring the first prosecutions for grooming gangs in Rochdale many years ago. That process has now concluded. The report has been written by Baroness Casey, and on the basis of that, a national inquiry will now follow.
Do you accept that you now did mislead the Question Time audience last week when you suggested that the majority of people crossing the channel illegally were women, children and babies, when in fact they're adult males?
Well, look, I think it's been clipped by, Reform in a particular way. If you look at the whole conversation, I wasn't referring to the total number of people being a majority of women, children and babies. I was telling a story about a visit that I had to the Border Security Command, where I was shown a number of dinghies which did have mostly women, children and babies in, who needed treatment for burns because of the mixing of oil from the engine with the seawater. And the case I was making was that, of course we've got to have strong borders. We need to return people who have no right to be here. But where there are children and babies in these situations, it's also right that we have a humanitarian response in treating them. Could I have been clearer in my language and said those specific 2 boats on my visits? I think the answer to that is evidently yes, given the reaction that we've had from the public. But I was very clear in my mind and in the story that I was telling that I was referring to those specific boats. And now it's right that the government continues to get on with funding the Border Security Command. We put record amounts of funding in the spending review this week to be able to tackle these criminal gangs. And we're going to get control of our border and get these numbers down.
You're not going to get control of the borders. You're not bringing anything down. And guys, after he's been caught waffling, he's now backtracking. He is backtracking now and saying how, oh no, it was, just 1 or 2 boats that I saw. It's not the majority coming in. So he's backtracking. He knows that the public aren't buying that BS. And now he's going back on what his initial statement was. Classic Labour tactic.
But is that really credible when, again, we've seen nearly 1,000 migrants cross the channel on June the 13th alone? You say you're smashing the gangs. The gangs are unfortunately running rings around the Labour government, aren't they?
Look, it is a problem. There's no question about that. That's why we're putting more money into the Border Security Command, why we're putting more effort into working with the French and other counterparts in Europe to be able to tackle what are pan-European networks of organised criminal gangs who are using these kind of human trafficking methods to use small dinghies across the channel. Obviously, this has been a problem for many, many years now. It's right that we're tough in tackling that, which is what we're going to be doing. And that's why we've put this extra money into the Border Security Command to enable them to do that.
Rachel Reeves gives the spending review on Wednesday. By Thursday, we find out that the UK economy shrank by 0.3%. That was 0.2% higher than most economists expected. This is as a result of her budget, an awful April, isn't it? This is of the government's own making, the fact that the economy is now shrinking.
Well, look, the data that came out was 1 month, which was April. You'll remember that was the particular month when Donald Trump first announced his kind of global tariffs. It was before we'd had the US-UK trade deal, indeed before we'd had the UK-India trade deal and the UK-EU trade deal. And so it's no surprise that in that month the market was suppressed because of not knowing what was going to happen in that context around the world. But if you look back at the last quarter, we've been the fastest growing economy in the G7. So whilst April is a blip for very good reasons, we're still very confident that we're doing the right things to be able to get our strong economy growing as quickly as possible.
You can't possibly be blaming Donald Trump for the fact that services output is down, production output is down, payroll jobs are down 274,000 from a year ago, the unemployment rate is up, inflation is up. You can't possibly be blaming Donald Trump. At least take some responsibility for what has happened to the economy since a budget was announced which imposed a jobs tax on people via a 25 billion increase in national insurance contributions. It's not got anything to do with America.
Well, the reason I referenced Donald Trump is because it was that particular month, the month of April, where there was this great uncertainty in global markets, which evidently would have an impact on businesses and investors. That's now begun to be clarified. You know, we're the first country to have got a trade deal with the United States. I think we're still the only country to have managed to get a trade deal with the United States. We've since announced the deals with the EU and with India. In our spending review, we've been able to show what we're doing in terms of investing in infrastructure and skills and doing all the things that we can do to partner with business to make sure that the economy is growing and we're making people better off across the country. And as I say, if you stand back in the last quarter, we were the fastest growing economy in the G7.
Can we have a one-word answer, I hope and pray, to the following hopefully simple question? Can you rule out tax rises in the autumn?
So that will be subject to the OBR forecast later in the year and the budget in the autumn. It's right
Is that a yes or a no?
Make these types of decisions in an orderly way. Well, you're going to have to wait, Camilla, because we make these decisions one way or the other at the budget in the autumn, because you have to wait for the OBR forecast to be able to set the circumstances in which you make these decisions. And that will come after the summer.
Mr. Jones, we need to leave it there. But
guys, let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.